African mythologies, rich with vibrant narratives and profound symbolism, often struggle for recognition in the global cultural landscape. Despite their depth and significance, these stories face challenges rooted in historical biases, colonial legacies, and a lack of representation in mainstream media. As a result, the intricate tapestry of African myths, woven from diverse traditions and languages, remains underappreciated compared to more widely recognized mythological traditions. Understanding these struggles is crucial for fostering a more inclusive appreciation of global cultural heritage. Colonial legacy. Colonialism imposed European cultural norms and values, often marginalizing indigenous African cultures and their mythologies. As Fanon, 1963, noted in The Wretched of the Earth, colonial powers systematically devalued local traditions and imposed their own cultural hierarchies. The suppression of African cultures during colonial rule led to a loss of many traditional practices. As Achebe, 1975, discussed in Morning Yet on Creation Day, colonial education often dismissed African knowledge systems, including mythologies, as inferior. Oral tradition versus written records. African mythologies were primarily transmitted orally, which presents challenges for documentation. According to Abrahams, 1970, in African folktales, oral traditions can be difficult to record comprehensively, leading to gaps in the preservation and study of these myths. The lack of written records can make African mythologies less accessible to global scholars compared to written traditions. As Okwo, 1992, explains in African oral literature, the oral nature of these traditions complicates their inclusion in academic discourse. Stereotyping and misrepresentation. Media portrayals often perpetuate stereotypes and oversimplifications of African cultures. In The Myth of Africa, a post-colonial discourse, Nyamjo, 2002, explores how media representations can distort African mythologies, reducing their complexity and richness. The commercialization of African myths can lead to misrepresentations that strip away their cultural context. According to Mosi, 1990, in Myth and Symbol in African Art, commercial adaptations often dilute the significance of these myths. Educational gaps. African mythologies are often underrepresented in global educational curricula. As highlighted by Mlama, 1991, in Culture and the Schooling of African Children, the lack of inclusion in education systems means these mythologies are less known outside Africa. The scarcity of comprehensive academic resources on African mythologies hampers global understanding. As Kimenyi, 1995, argues in African mythology and folklore, the limited research and scholarship contribute to the underrecognition of these traditions. How we can change this? Promote research and documentation. Encouraging and funding African scholars to document and study their own mythologies can provide valuable insights. As discussed by Agbej Williams, 1992, in African oral traditions, local perspectives are crucial for accurate representation and preservation. Developing archives of oral traditions can help preserve and share African mythologies. According to Nangoni, 1980, in the preservation of African oral traditions, systematic documentation is essential for safeguarding these cultural assets. Support representation in media. Advocating for accurate portrayals of African mythologies in media can challenge stereotypes. As argued by Hauntonji, 1996, in Endogenous Knowledge, Research Trails, media can play a role in presenting a more nuanced view of African cultures. Collaborations with African artists and storytellers can lead to more authentic representations. As Mpanza, 2008, suggests in African arts and the media, creative partnerships can enhance the global understanding of African myths. Integrate mythologies into education. Incorporating African mythologies into educational curricula can increase global awareness. As suggested by Osei, 2001, in education and cultural diversity, including diverse mythologies can enrich educational experiences. Organizing workshops and lectures about African mythologies can educate the public. According to Moyo, 1999, in cultural education and public awareness, such initiatives can foster greater appreciation and understanding. Encourage cultural exchange. Promoting dialogues between African and global cultures can facilitate cultural exchange. As discussed by Thayongo, 1986, in Decolonizing the Mind, such interactions can help bridge cultural gaps and enhance mutual respect. Supporting cultural festivals that celebrate African mythologies can provide platforms for these stories. According to Comis, 2003, in festivals and the promotion of cultural heritage, these events can raise awareness and appreciation of African traditions. By addressing these challenges and implementing these strategies, we can work towards greater recognition and appreciation of African mythologies on a global scale.